Good morning, good afternoon, everybody who's joining today. At least here in Austin, Texas, we have a beautiful day. I hope you have the same for wherever you are from. Today, we're going to talk about our beloved tool, especially if you're a finance person like myself, Excel. We all do love our Excel spreadsheets, and there's a reason why we do love them. But there are also a couple of reasons why you have to be careful when you are using spreadsheets. And we want to give you a perspective on this today and also show you probably the best case scenario that you can achieve for your organization if you're dealing with data. I have brought with me today Jhanvi Patel. She's our head of solution advisory in our company. And if you are engaged with us currently, you probably have crossed paths with Jhanvi. If not, you will be amazed. She's showing a little bit of what I'm talking to you about in the introductory part of today's session. So without further ado, let's dive in. And I want to quickly present what to expect for today, talk a little bit about Excel, talk a little bit about what we label enterprise performance management, and then show what is the combination of both, what is the correlation between both, what is the combination between both, and provide also with a little bit of guidance where to go from here. What we are seeing in the market is really that we don't know where we're headed to, right? Uncertainty is, since a couple of years now, the term of the best description of the global economy. And this is why a lot of companies are turning towards us, asking for some advice that we can provide for leaders in their organization, be it the CFO, be it the CIO, be it somebody responsible for a bigger team, any leader in an organization that struggles with this uncertainty. What is it they can do in order to prepare for this uncertainty, right? Prepare for certain events that are happening so that these numbers here do not apply to them. I don't know if you're a big corporation or a smaller company. If you're a bigger company, probably the top left number speaks more to you, showing the volatility in the Fortune 500 index, how big it is, right? That more than half of them have disappeared from there, right? And most of them not through merger or anything like that. Most of them because they either dramatically shrunk or they went out of business. If you're an upcoming company like ours, like Simplify as an example, we don't want to be part of the bottom right number here, right? Which means only a fifth of all companies live longer than 20 years, right? That's, if you're having kids, that's yeah, you get your kid out of high school, but your kid might not make it to the end of college, right? You don't want to be in that situation because you love what you're doing as in growing an upcoming company, and you want to make sure that you will surpass that, right? Yet still, in these times of uncertainties, we see so many organizations pounding in on spreadsheets, on their spreadsheets, right? Be it Google spreadsheets or most commonly Microsoft Excel, right? And there is a good reason for it, right? You see the reasons here on the left hand side, right? We all have it. Everybody has a Microsoft account, be it personal or be it a professional license for your wonderful spreadsheets, right? And we all, in the meantime, went through the painful way of learning how to maneuver Excel spreadsheets, right? With all the formula, and some are better in it, some are not as good in it, and just use fundamental formula that Excel is providing and not the advanced stuff, but everybody is using it in some form or shape, right? And it is super flexible, right? So I'm just showing an example here. Everybody can do this, right? My 11-year-old daughter can do this, right? In the meantime, right? And if you cannot do this, give it 3 minutes on YouTube, and then you can do it, right? Or my daughter can do it, right? So really, it is fundamental in everybody's life, be it managing your personal finances or your vacation budget or what have you, but also it has found its way into many, many businesses, right? So if you're relying on spreadsheets right now, don't feel bad. Even when I go through the pieces that are not so good about spreadsheets, first of all, I truly believe you have encountered those already. And secondly, you're not alone, right? Because the benefits you see here on the left-hand side make it easy to stick to your spreadsheets, right? But the right-hand side is showing a little bit the downside of spreadsheets, right? If there's collaboration needed, it is not the best thing, right? If you have a need for data integrity because you're in a finance organization, spreadsheet definitely is not the right thing to do, right? If you deal with a large amount of data because you want to show new customers or new clients or new market engagements, if you will, right, with a lot of data, you at very soon come to scalability issues, right? Especially if you add calculations there, right? And you wait and wait and wait, and half of the time calculation does not run through. This holds true, by the way, also if you're using add-ons to Excel like Power BI or so, right? If there are certain models that you don't have haven't used in a while because you only do this once a year or so, you will get into issues with your Power BI, period, right? And the last piece I want to bring up here as a finance person is version control, right? With spreadsheets, you have no idea, is this the data from today? Is it not? Has somebody else modified anything in there? How do I deal with, hey, I have a plan A and a plan B and things like that, right? But most importantly, that's something that I always encounter because we use also Microsoft Cloud services, and half of the time I'm saving my spreadsheet, not even the shared spreadsheet, but I'm saving my stuff in the cloud. I'm getting error messages like you see here in the middle, where I don't know next time I open this thing, is it what I just have saved or not, right? There is communication issues between your computer and any cloud infrastructure that you're having, specifically spreadsheets, and more importantly, also, if you're not the only ones approaching that spreadsheet. Right? So we have the situation with spreadsheets where you can very cover the left-hand side, and I'm looking now into kind of forward-looking perspective, right? If you want to somehow not just use a system in your department to show actual number, but also to go into the future, right? The left-hand side is really, in fact, it is a spreadsheet behind the beautiful graphic that I have here on my slide. But that's the traditional way, right? If you want to extrapolate into the future and build out a picture of how it's going to look like tomorrow, most people fall to, hey, I have last year's, in this case, revenues. I add 10% for next year because that's roughly what we had over the last couple of years, right? And then automatically you see that you have your P&L based on these revenue increases for plan for next year on the right hand side, right? But that's absolutely not the way that you should build out your future business, if you will, right? From a number perspective, you would want to go from what has happened in the past into what should happen, right? You want to, and I'm now on the right hand side of the slide, you want to go into what is making up your market, right? Do you derive your growth or your decline based on certain market factors? What are the driving forces behind your business, right? Is it weather? Is it consumer pricing? Is it tariffs that everybody's talking about these days, right? What is it, right? Is it the global economy? Is it imports? Is it the supply chain? What are the driving forces behind your personal business, right? And then you can identify critical uncertainties for your business so that you utilize data that is existing and then build out plausible scenarios where your business is potentially going to go, right? There's usually, there should be at least a plan B. A lot of our customers who are front running, if I may say so, in their budgeting and forecasting and planning processes, they have 5, 6, 7, 8 different scenarios based on certain criteria that might come in, right? And some of them even utilize modern, in parentheses, artificial intelligence to come up with those scenarios, right? And then you can take those scenarios and discuss them with your stakeholders, right? Don't make a decision by yourself or let the system guide you to a decision. Open up those different scenarios and discuss them with your stakeholders, and then build out the path for your specific business into the future. So that's basically a magic gift that a professional solution would help you build out, and you can then pivot towards a more sophisticated planning strategy, right? And embrace this forward-thinking methodologies like those comprehensive scenario analysis and adaptive forecasting to paint a clearer picture of potential outcomes of your business, right? And by implementing those predictive models and topics around flexible and dynamic resource allocation in your organization, you can prepare for diverse future scenarios and react swiftly to changing conditions in the market, right? Today, we have a tariff on Chinese steel. We don't know if we have it tomorrow as well, right? So you might have different scenarios if the tariffs remain. You source your steel from a different country that has lesser tariffs on it right now in order to get your costs down, right? And if the tariffs go away, you can stick to your Chinese steel. And again, I'm just picking one example here, right? So this strategic shift from retrospective to prospective planning empowers you to focus on what should happen and drive sustained and intelligent growth in your organization. So how does this look like? A modern enterprise performance management platform, or call it integrated business planning, call it end-to-end planning, whatever you name it in your organization, is something around what you see here, right? Those cubes represent different processes that feed their data and their insights into another process, and everything on the right-hand side ends up in this scenario here in your formal corporate reporting, if you will, or company reporting that your stakeholders look into, right? And you need things like data integration, right? You do not have that with if you're purely on spreadsheets, because the data resides on your computer and not in the system, right? You need a collaborative planning environment, right? Because maybe whatever in the workforce planning cube you see here, even if you're in the finance department and try to utilize this for your headcount budgets, you need insights from HR, right? So you better have somebody on the HR side who's working with you in order to make sure you got the right data from your HR systems that you then utilize to connect this with your financial budgets and break it down into your headcount budgets, right? Things that you definitely need for a modern planning and reporting process that you will not have through your spreadsheet are on the left-hand side, right? And of course, this includes advanced analytics. Yes, if you pay extra, you have some rudimentary support in your spreadsheets through whatever ChatGPT you can integrate in the meantime relatively easily. But this is not what we're talking about here on a company-wide level, if you will. So you want to make sure in order to achieve this forward-looking methodology in your organization that you have an environment like this in place that connects the dots between nowadays your different spreadsheets, but hopefully in the future, different planning and forecasting processes in your organization. So basically, you want to get away from looking at the rear view mirror while driving your car based on the actual nature in your spreadsheets or the minimal planning capabilities of a spreadsheet, and go more into a situation where you can even have a windshield and also have some guidance that supports you in your future strategy, right? If you close your eyes and imagine yourself driving and you just use the mirrors, you could somehow anticipate if the road is taking a left turn or if it's getting narrower or whatever, right? But what happens at a T intersection, right? Or what happens if there is a traffic jam ahead of you, right? You cannot see this just looking in your rear view mirrors or in your side mirrors. You need to have this forward-looking capabilities, and you might also want to add a good old head-up display here that enables you to project into the future. So this is what we think is needed. Now, how does spreadsheet and your EPM tool play together, right? We fundamentally believe that there is a use case for both, right? And I'm trying to visualize this on the left-hand side with this little balance, right? If it's you and your spreadsheet or somebody in your organization and their spreadsheet, it's totally fine to use the spreadsheet, right? If you don't use a lot of data in your spreadsheet, that's also totally fine in that spreadsheet, right? Or if you have somebody in an organization that has a totally different idea and need in terms of how they come up with numbers to plan for their organization, that's also fine, right? If you're a multinational organization and Canada plans completely differently due to a certain reason, they can still do it in their spreadsheet. The important thing is, and you will see this in Jhanvi's demo later on, the important thing is that their planning spreadsheet somehow is connected to your central system, right? And some of the data points that Canada in that case are using have to be fed and retrieved from your central system. Otherwise, your CFO or your CHRO or whatever stakeholder is responsible for a certain planning process there does not have the company-wide data together, right? So that's a typical and very good use case of a spreadsheet planning process in a smaller unit or in a small business unit or in any part of your business that really requires this one-off thing, which is completely different from your central plan. But if you need anything in form of advanced analytics that you need, be it AI, be it predictive, be it statistical, be it anything that you derive from different data points in your organization, not necessarily only from that spreadsheet, but from different systems even, right? I was alluding to your HR system that you would want to have, right? You definitely don't have those data points in your spreadsheet because HR would not give it to you. But you would be able to import automatically the points from the HR system that are not tied to an individual person. And then you can utilize those data points in your advanced analytics or in your planning process, right? Same with collaboration, right? If you and Mary need to make up together a certain aspect of projecting the business, you need a platform that allows collaboration, and spreadsheets definitely are not that platform for collaboration, right? And same with company-wide data. How do you want to share a spreadsheet across your organization, right? If you have a shared document, you encounter every other day these error messages that I showed earlier, and even worse one, right? And not talking about the risk. And otherwise, you would send back and forth a spreadsheet, which is a nightmare for the person, quote unquote, owning that spreadsheet to reconcile all the entries and whatsoever, right? So it's okay to use Excel in the cases that I mentioned earlier on, or even if you're working in a central EPM system, rendering the data in a spreadsheet user interface, and Jhanvi will go into this as well, but you want to have a quick ad hoc analysis based on that, right? You can copy the data in the spreadsheet and do whatever you want to do there because you're doing this just for yourself and not for anybody else. So how does it look like, right? What I'm showing here on the right-hand side is the bottom portion of the picture is a spreadsheet that is connected to the central EPM system. And the top one is a direct view into this EPM system, right? It's the same number because the spreadsheet number you see at the bottom is coming from that central system and can be now utilized in your spreadsheet or in any spreadsheet, if you will, right? But it still is connected to the central system. So if you modify data in your spreadsheet and hit the submit button, it will write that number back into the system, right? But you can utilize, as mentioned earlier, on that same spreadsheet for your ad hoc analysis or for some additional visualization because your whatever Canadian CFO, she always wants to see travel expenses lined out by air travel, by accommodation, and by ground travel or whatever. But your central system does not foresee that, right? So this additional level of detail is important to the Canadian CFO, and you can utilize your spreadsheet that shows these details that you do not have in your central system. In your central system, you only have travel and entertainment, but in your Canadian system, you've got the underlying line items there as well, right? Simple example. But you can use your desktop version for Excel. You can use the online version, which a lot of our customers are doing. And of course, there are monthly feature updates that are published for the above that you see, right? The gray bar that you see in the screen here is the Excel add-in that is usually utilized in your spreadsheet, which helps you connect to your central system and build out reports in spreadsheets, build out, if you want, input templates for your spreadsheets so that you have an easy way also for those heavy, savvy, once a year spreadsheet users to provide them with a spreadsheet, right? You just tell them, hey, noodle on your spreadsheet, and then at some point of time, hit the submit button because then the data from that spreadsheet in a defined pattern will feed into your central system. You can use it to analyze, as I mentioned earlier, right? And you can either actually really use the pivot functionality of Excel. We would not recommend that. We would recommend to use the pivoting functionality that the Excel add-in is utilizing because there it always pulls the data from the central database, if you will, right? That has the big advantage and does not store the data in the spreadsheet. And you can use it for different planning purposes, as you see on the left-hand side. So what is our guidance to you? First of all, I would establish in your organization clear guidelines for usage of which tool, if you will, right? This is meant here by establish a little rule book. This sounds more sophisticated than it is. Usually we have in our EPM platform the possibility in the user interface to add certain rules that are visible to the user, right? The user clicks on a little icon and then it pops up and guides the user, hey, in this view, you should do X, Y, and Z. And you can also implement here if you want to use the Excel front end because you like it better or you're more familiar with it, you can also do the same, right? But make sure your users understand what are the quote unquote use cases that are specific to Excel and what are the use cases that are specific to your EPM thing, right? Because of the disadvantages of Excel that I alluded to earlier on, right? And also implement some form of change, right? A lot of our customers literally use the Excel front end at the very, very beginning because they don't want to overburden their users, also those occasional users, right? But over time, naturally, specifically the CIO, but more importantly also the business leaders in an organization, they feel more comfortable if the majority of the process will be done through the system because it minimizes the risk, it provides a full audit trail, and Jhanvi will talk about audit trail as well on the spreadsheet that she's showing. But making sure that everything has its fair process in your organization based on the guidance and based on the governance that in most cases the CIO is spitting out there for the use of software in the organization. But specifically from a risk minimization perspective, the business leaders outside of the IT department also have a very, very strong need in that, right? So invest a little bit in the change between, hey, we did everything in Excel towards we have this sophisticated solution now in place that over time is replacing Excel, right? The next thing is data. Ensure the data consistency across the platforms, right? Make sure that everybody understands that only portions of the spreadsheet, in most cases, the sum of more details, if you will, are connected to the central data system, to the central data, if you will, right? Make sure everybody understands that and also make it visible in your spreadsheets. And the third piece is make sure everybody understands the difference between the spreadsheet and the central EPM system that you have in place, right? And then implement regular processes to check on that, that everybody still adheres to this process or not, right? Next is governance and control measures, right? You want to create some form of minor policies to monitor data integrity between a spreadsheet and your central system, especially for those points where in the example earlier on that Canada still uses a lot of offline spreadsheets that are connected to quote unquote the hot spreadsheet that is connected to your central system. Jhanvi will go into that as well in the demo in a few minutes. And the last piece is collaboration overall, right? This is more of a general guidance. The more collaborative you are in your reporting and planning processes, the higher quality you will get. Because four eyes see more than two eyes, right? Two brains are better than one brain, right? And if you have a collaborative process in place, this fosters ownership of respective areas in your organization. And also this fosters finding the right way for your company and not necessarily just for a department, if you will, right? This totally goes into bottom line versus top line, right? You want to grow your business, but whatever controlling is looking for cost savings all the time, right? You have to work together in order to find the right approach between spending more / investing and having your cost as a percentage of your revenues in mind, right? And you achieve this through collaboration. And only an EPM solution offers collaborative approaches. Spreadsheets don't. Last piece is the governance and the run perspective, right? Make sure that you regularly assess your workflow that you're having in mind, specifically with those Canada type, and I'm pounding on Canada here. I love Canada. Don't get me wrong. I picked Canada as a country for a one-off earlier on. Make sure that the workflow between within Canada and between Canada and your enterprise or your global view makes sense, right? And regularly collect feedback from people actively working in your systems. Last piece before we go into the demo is just an eye chart. How many companies and which companies are turning to us because of our unique blend of process expertise in planning and reporting and data management, as well as the technology that lies behind this, right? We're CIOs, we're CFOs, we're CHROs in our organization, former practitioners, and we provide a full support throughout your whole journey as a learning organization, as a developing and evolving organization, and help you from selecting and buying throughout the whole technology implementation process, making sure that the software is used as intended and adopted as anticipated, and make sure that at some point of time also we extend the use cases within that platform, right? You might start out with just bringing together different data sets into one system and report on those, but then you might want to go out into, hey, well, I have this data. I also want to provide data input capabilities, right? I'm going into the planning piece, right? So you want to provide users the opportunity to add data to your system, or you want to utilize functionality of the system to create data, right? That's the predictive component, if you will, right? That's something that a lot of customers do. It's a step-by-step thing. They start with one area and then branch out into more, right? And I would argue all the companies you see up here, from very, very small companies, 20 million in revenue at the bottom left, NatureRipe, to the big guys as well. I don't know how much revenue Intel has, but they are a Fortune 100 company. Every of these logos you see here and the teams behind it started small and branch out into broader utilization. And that's exactly what we do, right? We don't implement, turn around and go away. No, we stay with you and make sure that everything runs smoothly with you. So, long story short, you all have waited probably now for Jhanvi to walk you through how does that look like, right? How do I connect my spreadsheet with this central EPM platform, and how can I utilize the good functionality of a spreadsheet, and how can I utilize functionality that the EPM platform provides you with in your Excel interface. Jhanvi, handing over to you, and I need to stop sharing here. I know you just take over. Perfect.
Yeah, you should. Hopefully, you can see my Excel screen.
Yeah, we can see your screen. Perfect.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes. Thanks again, Henner. So yeah, hi everyone. My name is Jhanvi Patel. I'm actually a solution advisor here at Simplify. And what I'm going to be doing here is I'm going to be taking a few minutes here just to go over kind of the Excel add-in and how you can leverage that using your models and data that's within your EPM platform as well. So as mentioned, I really wanted to kind of show you how you can bring the power of SAP Analytics Cloud into a more familiar environment, like Microsoft Excel, using the SAP Analytics Cloud add-in. So you should be all seeing my Excel at the moment. So with the add-in, you're not just connecting Excel to the cloud, but you're actually also embedding, enabling reporting and planning capabilities right where many of your users feel comfortable and are used to in a familiar environment. What this means is that you're actually leveraging live data from your models, whether it's financial planning, whether it's doing things like operational reporting, or even just for data analysis without actually leaving Excel as well. So keep in mind, as Henner mentioned, there are some limitations to what you can do within Excel versus directly within the platform. Things for when it comes to things like that advanced planning features. So within the platform where you can do allocations, you can do that version management, and then also have the ability to do workflows. And then you're also actually limited to kind of using the visualizations available within Excel. Whereas within the platform, it actually offers a large set of visualizations out of the box that you can actually build out with your content as well. And then also, as Hannah mentioned, that collaborative aspect of the platform is what you'll kind of be missing out on as well. So starting off in our Excel, so the SAP Analytics Cloud add-in is actually shown within the Excel ribbon. So once you actually have the add-in installed, it's actually very easy to log in. I'll just log out. I thought I was logged out just so that I can show you. It's as simple as just logging in with your user credentials that you would have for the platform as well. So very easy to get logged in, and essentially this is establishing that connection with your models within the platform directly within Excel now as well. So as we kind of look at our table here, so once we are logged in, behind the scenes, the data shown within this P&L here is actually securely coming, as I mentioned, from the cloud. So you're always working with governed, your enterprise level data that's stored within your model as well. So even though the data is coming in from the cloud, at this point, you actually have the ability to kind of use all of those standard Excel features to either create visualizations or do some analysis on your data as well. So as you can see, is now that I'm logged in, you kind of have that panel that comes over here on the right-hand side. This kind of gives you that pivot table that Henner had mentioned before. So this is where we can actually start building out our tables and some of the concepts and functionality that we see within Excel. So we're able to maintain our rows and columns and then additional filters as well. One of the things that I did want to show you, and I will go to that in just a moment, is if you had a table that's already set up in the platform that you just want to download into Excel, that will include all of the calculations that you've built within the platform, any sort of additional modifications to filters that you've set up, the columns, the rows, the data that you've kind of selected as well. There is a way to just download that table as is, so that you're able to use that as your starting point as well, if you didn't want to have to actually create it from scratch. So as mentioned, once we have our data coming in and signed in, we can use some of those standard features when it comes to Excel to kind of create, in this example, some of those visualizations based on your active live data coming in from the cloud as well. So the scenario that I've kind of put together here that I wanted to showcase, it's very similar to kind of the scenario that Henner had mentioned. So within your organization, if you are having, for example, a different department that is planning at a lower line item level than what we are actually planning at as a complete organization, or if they have offline Excels that they're using to put together their budgets to give them their final numbers using specific calculations and formulas that they use within their organization that hasn't been standardized across the company, then they can continue to use those Excels that will then feed in to your active plan as well and in your budget. So in this example, I actually have a sales budget, an offline budget. And what we can see here is, as a planner within my offline budget, it actually allows me to plan at a specific granular level. So if we're looking at office expenses, we're looking at supplies, that's actually the level that we were planning at a corporate level. But within the offline template for the sales department, we're actually going down to a little bit more of a granular level that also includes kind of that back office and front office as well, being able to split that out. So essentially, this is where I can have those offline Excels, with that more granular plans, where I can do those plans, see those plans and make some adjustments and changes accordingly. So if we're kind of looking at August, what I can do at this point is, if I'm in my plan and I know that I want to make some changes to that back office, I can come in here, I can make those changes. And as my offline plan is linked to my active plan that's linked to the data that's in the cloud, you're actually going to see how that changes some of our data within this screen as well. And that kind of change is indicated using hopefully you can see it. It's kind of faint, but it's kind of a blue highlight in the background. So that kind of indicates that a change has been made to your cell here as well. So just going back to the offline, I just wanted to make an additional adjustment here. What I wanted to actually do is, this is where we can actually even use, as mentioned, some of those formulas to do calculations as well. So if I wanted to build in, just say, a percentage calculation, 55, that would be quite a bit, to create a formula, I can actually do that using our data that we have in the system. So in this example, I'm going to go ahead and actually take my September front office budget, and I'm actually going to build it in a calculation formula so that it actually then calculates a 5% increase based on the percentage that I'm entering, and then it's going to give me my overall number as well. So then, of course, what I can do is I can take that increase and I can actually enter that now in my September front office expense here. So I can go ahead and just copy that in as a number, and that will update accordingly as well. And then what we can do, again, coming back into our plan, coming into now our hot P&L budget tab, that's actually linked to our model. You can see that again, the number has changed. At this point, what I can go ahead and do is I can actually go ahead and process the data. So I'm just going to go ahead and refresh my table. I think I needed to refresh prior to the change. And essentially what's going to happen is those changes, as the system is making those updates, just refresh my table, and I can go ahead and now process my data. At this point, as we're processing the data, what that's actually doing is there's actually rerunning our calculations based on our model and data that we have in our system, and then it's actually refreshing the numbers accordingly, and it's actually going to reflect that with that yellow highlight in the background. So again, that kind of indicates that a change has been made to those numbers that are then reflected within our table as well. So I will go ahead, and this is actually now in our Excel. I'm going to go ahead and jump into the web UI. So this is actually exactly the same P&L budget that we have within the web UI, within the platform. And what I can do here is I can go ahead and now just refresh my data. And having made those changes in the Excel, I'm now able to see those changes directly within the platform as well. So really is keeping your data integrated, and as updates are being made, they're actually being reflected accordingly as well. So as a user, if I was making changes now within the platform, I can go ahead and just make a quick change for, again, we'll just keep it as September for supplies, and I'll just increase this, make that change. And you're going to see how that is then reflected across my budget again. If I was to navigate now back into, let me just close this so we see it a little bit more. If I navigate back into my Excel, and then again, if I was to refresh my table, it's actually going to go ahead and show me those numbers updated within Excel as well. Just again to kind of show you, you know, so you are really using data across the two different applications, and you're always leveraging the most accurate data as well and up-to-date information accordingly. One of the other things that I did want to kind of mention as well, as Henner mentioned, with regards to kind of an audit trail and just kind of seeing who made changes at what point. One of the great things, one of the things that you have within the platform that essentially is not going to be there within Excel is within the platform, you have the ability to kind of check your version history. And what this is going to do is this is actually going to give you a kind of like an audit trail of the changes that have been made, and this will actually allow you to go back to a specific point in time as well. So if you did need to go back to two changes prior to us being made, we can actually navigate down by selecting the different spots within the timeline, and it will actually take your data back to that point in time as well. So if you did need to go back and make adjustments, you can do that as well. So essentially at this point, this data that we've been changing and making updates to, this is actually all within a private version that's only available to the users that are kind of making those changes. If you're doing it with a colleague and collaborating within the tool, then you guys are working in a private version. So once we have our version updated to what we wanted to reflect for the month of September in this example, we can go ahead and publish our data. Essentially what's going to happen is now all of those changes that we've been making within Excel, whether it's been within our offline file, whether it's been directly within the Excel table or within the platform, this is now actually going to be set as our published version. So then the next time, these will be the numbers that will be used to continue on to do my budgeting. And this is also what others within the organization will be able to see as well. And then, of course, having published the data, this is where we can actually then start to see some of the additional workbooks and visualizations updated to kind of reflect these numbers as well. One last thing I did want to kind of just point out as well, again, you know, even though we have our table in this example coming directly from using our model within the cloud, we can make adjustments and create formulas outside of kind of the workspace that are then reflected accordingly within our model as well. So again, I've just created another scenario here where we can do an increase for our product sales, and I'll just do a quick 2% increase. And then again, this is a formula that I'm creating outside of outside of the area that's connected to the platform, and I can go ahead and I can go into the product sales, and we were doing that for October, I believe. I can go ahead and I can enter this in here, and again, processing that data, making those changes, I'm going to be able to see how that's reflected not only within my workbook, but then see those changes within the web UI as I refresh the data as well. So this was just kind of a quick overview and to show you a scenario that can be used where we can use the Excel add-in to kind of leverage building out our table. As mentioned before, one of the things that I did want to just highlight as well, I'm just going to go into a different example. This is just an example of another P&L that I've created within the platform. If I wanted to download this directly into Excel, I actually now have the ability to do that. So I can actually open this directly in Excel, and it's going to open up an Excel workbook. Again, once I get signed in, it's going to then bring in that model with all of that data. So essentially, you have the ability to kind of bring in tables and plans that you may have already created within the platform, or you have the ability to kind of build these from scratch as well. Lots of different ways that you can do this. And as mentioned, we've built out KPIs within the platform that are also reflected and available within the Excel add-in, so we can see those calculations, and then we can also see some of the additional information that we've kind of put in when it comes to building out our plan within the platform. So with that, that was kind of what I wanted to showcase with regards to what we can do within the Excel add-in. I'm just going to check if there are any questions, if the team have any questions here that I can address in the time that we have.
Not on the chat.
Okay.
I put in the chat, if you have questions, either use the chat or send me a note and we get together. Either way is totally fine for us.
And as mentioned, you can leverage the Excel add-in. Again, if you have different departments planning at different levels or different ways, you can have a multiple number of different offline spreadsheets where they individually are looking at just their data, making their changes, and then it actually being reflected in the main P&L budget as well, which is then reflected into the platform and being able to actually build some additional visualizations and report books and analytics from that as well.
Alternatively, what also some customers are doing is really uploading CSV files. So as Jhanvi was showing, you can extract the structure that you're expecting into Excel, and you can share that document with somebody, and this person can make their changes, and then a central person could upload, right? This is used in areas where this user would not normally go into a system like that, but only is responsible for one very, very minor piece, if you will, right? And that would assure that this input can be given, and somebody centrally who has a user in the system can upload the data into the central platform. So that's another use case that you could technically bring on. Jhanvi, the visualization you're showing on the right-hand side there with the graphs, is this a system graph or is this an Excel graph?
No, this would be an Excel graph. So this is using our data that we've brought in from our platform to actually use to then create these dashboards or create these visualization.
Okay. Yeah, that's the example that I mentioned earlier, or that Jhanvi was showing, right? You could bring on the additional line items in that you had on the office supplies and front office, back office, and build a visualization because the Canadian CFO wants to see that while the detail is not part of the central system here. Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, if there's no questions, let me go over the very last few points. We want to make sure that you take something home today, right? As you know, Excel will be around probably forever. But you have to also admit, if you centrally deal with data, with company-wide data, spreadsheets are not the right thing to do, right? You, both from a reporting and from a planning perspective, need a real solution in order to bring data together, in order to visualize data, in order to have accurate data, live data, and make use of the data in terms of forecasting and budgeting. There is a strong use case for a coexistence, right? We saw that, we went through this earlier on, and don't worry too much about it. And also here, the shift from Excel to an EPM solution happens in phases usually, right? Or evolves over time. And that's totally normal. People don't like black and white, right? People like to have options in between and to slowly and steadily change the way how they work. And that's what we mean with a shift in dominantly using Excel towards more limiting Excel to those specific use cases, but more generally phasing over to your data platform and to your central system that manages all that data and the reporting and the planning side of it. There are, yeah, these systems have a reason, and also be aware there are some EPM tools out there that are nothing but Excel spreadsheets with some VBA or other code, right? Be very, very cautious with those. They might sound appealing at the very beginning, but we have many, many, many customers who went initially with an Excel-based solution and figured out, man, that's not too much better than Excel really, right? And they get into their limitations of those tools as well, which are relatively similar to the ones that I shared here earlier on with spreadsheet. Other than that, there's some workflow included and some database included, but it would be having in mind here, right? And of course, there's always a hybrid approach, and the best practices we shared earlier on should be supportive in your decision making along the way. If you have more needs for insights, I'll share the slides here as well. But by all means, we have multiple resources. We're pretty active on LinkedIn. We have a very, very heavily used YouTube channel, and just visit us on our website and we can go on or connect with me. I put my email address, sorry, it's the other one here. I put my email address in the chat, or you can use this one, same inbox. Just let me know. With this, I want to thank you also in Jhanvi's name for your participation today and your interest. We will reach out to you with the recording as well as the slides that you have seen here, which might be helpful in your organization to foster conversation with your stakeholders. And hope we can meet in person at some point of day, or at least virtually, and or see you at one of our other webinars you'll find on our website or on our LinkedIn channel. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day, and bye-bye.